Wind tore through the empty street, sharp as broken glass. The little girl stood outside McCready's trading post, one bare foot buried in snow, the other on hard-packed dirt. Her small hand trembled as she held up a gold ring toward the door, a ring too fine for the likes of her. Inside, laughter rattled against the walls. Boots stomped. Dice clattered. The smell of whiskey drifted through the cracked door each time it swung open. Men hollered over a card game, too busy chasing luck to notice a starving child outside. The girl pressed her lips together and whispered, "Please, sir, just some bread." Her voice vanished into the wind. A horse snorted nearby, its breath clouding in the cold. The sound made her flinch. From the corner of her eye, a shadow moved, tall, heavy with dust and silence. A man dismounted, boots crunching slow on the frost. His hat brim cut his face in half, and a long coat hung from his shoulders like it carried too many storms. He stopped in front of her. The wind stilled. "That ring," he said quietly, "ain't yours, is it?" The girl clutched it tighter. "It's my mama's," she whispered. "She says it was her wedding ring. I just need bread, mister. She's real sick." The man's eyes shifted, pale as steel. Behind them was something buried, memory, maybe regret. He reached out, slow enough not to scare her, and turned his palm upward. "Let me see." She hesitated, then placed the ring in his hand. His glove brushed her fingers, rough leather against frozen skin. He studied the ring, the tiny engraving inside, then looked back at her face, cheeks red with cold, eyes too old for her years. Inside the trading post, laughter rose again, a cruel, careless sound. The man turned toward the door. He pushed it open with a single motion, and the hinges screamed. The noise inside faltered. McCready himself looked up from the counter, eyes narrowing. "What do you want, Stone?" Eli Stone didn't answer. He tossed a few silver coins on the counter. "Bread, medicine, blanket." His voice didn't rise. It didn't have to. McCready grunted. "You setting up charity now?" Eli's gaze didn't move. "Just do it." Silence. Then McCready spat, grabbed the supplies, and shoved them forward. The door creaked again as Eli stepped out, the sack slung over his shoulder. He knelt before the girl, handed her the food. "Take this. Your mama, where is she?" She pointed toward the hills, voice barely a whisper. "Past the ridge, in the tent." Eli looked out that way, the horizon flat and cold. "Then we'd best go." He lifted her onto his horse, adjusted his coat around her shoulders. As they rode off into the dying light, the storyteller's voice would have said, softly, almost like a prayer. The horse stumbled on a patch of ice, and Eli's hand shot to the reins. The little girl clung to his coat, shivering. The ridge rose ahead, jagged, black against the dying sun. Smoke drifted from somewhere unseen, thin and ghostly. "There," she whispered, pointing to a patch of canvas barely standing against the wind. He swung off the saddle and lifted her down. The ground was hard as bone. The tent's flap fluttered weakly, and a woman's cough cracked through the cold. Eli ducked inside. The smell hit him first, sickness and smoke. The woman lay on a pile of rags, her hair matted, cheeks hollow, her eyes open slow, searching. "Ma," the girl breathed, crawling to her side. The woman smiled faintly, voice dry as dust. "You came back, Rosie." "She brought help," Eli said. His voice filled the small space like thunder in a canyon. The woman's gaze turned toward him, sharp, curious, knowing. "Help? From who?" He reached into his coat, pulling out the bread and medicine. From a man who had more than he needed. Her eyes flickered to the insignia still faintly stitched into his old coat sleeve. Union cavalry, faded but clear. She stared. "Eli Stone," she whispered. "You were at Red Mesa." His shoulders stiffened. For a moment, the wind outside was the only sound. Then he nodded once. "I was." She coughed hard, gripping the blanket. "You disappeared after that fight. Folks said you buried your wife and boy, walked off the war, and never looked back." He said nothing. His jaw clenched as he knelt beside her, opening the medicine bottle. The girl watched him with wide eyes, her small fingers wrapped around her mother's wrist. "Drink this," he said quietly. The woman obeyed. Her breathing steadied, a little color finding her face again. Eli pulled a worn canteen from his saddlebag, poured a small tin of water, and handed it to the girl. Get her to sip slow. Outside, the wind moaned through the canyon, low and steady, like a voice that remembered too much. He stepped out, looked toward the horizon, and saw the faint glow of Ash Hollow far below. Tomorrow, he'd ride back, bring lumber, blankets, whatever it took to build them something better than this tent. Behind him, the girl's laugh broke through the silence, light, fragile, alive. The sound made something shift deep inside him, something he'd buried with his family long ago. The woman's voice drifted through the flap, soft but strong. Why are you doing this, Eli Stone? He didn't look back. Because once, he said, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. The wind carried his words away. The fire inside the tent flared, gold and warm against the cold. And the storyteller's voice would whisper. The hammer struck the nail, and the sound cracked through the morning cold. Eli drove another board into place, breath fogging in the air. The half-built cabin stood like a promise against the barren ridge. Rosie carried small sticks to the fire pit, humming to herself. Her mother watched from the tent flap, wrapped in Eli's old cavalry coat. For the first time in days, color had returned to her face. Then hooves. For riders came out of the canyon dust, coats snapping in the wind. Eli stopped mid-swing, the hammer heavy in his hand. He recognized the man in front. McCready, smug as ever, a cigar burning between his teeth. Well, now, McCready called, reining in close. Didn't figure the great Eli Stone was building houses for beggars. Eli said nothing. The wind carried the smoke from McCready's cigar across his face. Behind the man, 3 hired guns waited, hands near their belts. This land ain't yours, McCready said. Belongs to the town, far as I'm concerned. Eli leaned the hammer against the frame, slow and calm. Ain't seen your name on it. McCready grinned. Ain't about names. It's about power. That ridge's got silver running under it. Whole town knows. You don't want to get in the way of men who dig for a living. Eli stepped forward, the boards creaking under his boots. I don't dig for silver. I build homes. A flicker of laughter from one of the riders. Then the sharp click of a revolver. Rosie gasped, clutching her mother's coat. Eli's eyes cut toward them. Just a glance, then back to McCready. You boys gonna draw? Or are you just here to talk about what you don't own? McCready's smirk faltered. Careful, Stone. You ain't the law no more. No, Eli said, voice low, steady as the wind. But I remember what it's for. The first man twitched. His gun came up too fast. Eli moved faster. The report echoed off the ridge, one clean shot. The man's pistol flew from his hand and spun into the dust. Silence followed. McCready's horse shied back, eyes rolling. Eli holstered his weapon. Next one draws, I shoot lower. No one moved. The smoke from the gun curled into the cold air, thin and fading. McCready spat into the dirt. Ain't over, he growled. You'll regret talking sides with trash. Eli's jaw flexed. Maybe, but you'll regret threatening a child. The men turned their horses and rode off, their curses fading with the wind. Eli watched until they disappeared into the canyon. Then he went back to the hammer, drove another nail. The sound was sharp, sure, final. Inside the tent, Rosie whispered, Mama, is he an angel? Her mother smiled faintly. No, baby, just a man who remembers how to fight for good. And the storyteller would say, the storm hit before dawn. Snow came hard across the ridge, wind howling through the half-frozen trees. Eli dragged the last beam into place, his coat white with frost, his hands raw. The cabin was nearly finished, walls solid, roof sealed. Inside, a fire burned steady, throwing gold light through the cracks. Rosie sat by the hearth, feeding the flame with twigs. Her mother lay on a cot nearby, the color back in her cheeks, eyes brighter now. Each breath sounded stronger. Eli stepped inside, brushing snow from his shoulders. It'll hold, he said quietly. The woman looked up. You built it faster than any man could. He smiled faintly. Had reason to. The wind hammered the door again, shaking it on its hinges. Eli crossed the room, braced it with a plank, then crouched beside the fire. The warmth lit half his face, scarred, tired, but softened now. Rosie crawled over, holding something small in her hand. The ring. She held it out to him, the gold catching firelight. You never gave it back, she said. Eli looked at it for a long moment. It belongs with you, he said. Mama said you should keep it, the girl whispered. Says it's got luck. He shook his head. You'll need it more than me. The woman's voice came from behind him, calm, steady. Eli, you could stay. There's room here. He didn't answer. His eyes stayed on the flame. Outside, the storm began to ease, snow falling soft now, like ash from an old fire. At last he stood, pulled his hat low. You got a roof, a warm fire, food for a week. The rest you'll build yourselves. He placed something on the table, a folded deed and a small pouch of coins. Next to it, a note scrawled in rough ink. Keep the ring. Build a life worth its shine. Rosie started to speak, but the door creaked open and cold air rushed in. By the time she ran to the threshold, Eli was already on his horse, a dark shape cutting through the snow. She shouted after him. Thank you, Mr. Stone. He didn't turn. The sound of hoofbeats faded into the white. When the sun rose, the ridge was silent. The cabin stood proud against the wind, smoke curling from its chimney. The girl played in the snow, her laughter carrying through the valley like music. Inside, the woman held the ring close, eyes shining with something between sorrow and faith. And as the storyteller's voice would say, low and certain,